The night my son shut the door in my face, I stood on his porch holding a warm dish of food and realized something terrifying. I had raised a man who no longer saw me as family. I didn't scream. I didn't beg. I didn't even cry. I simply smiled, turned around and walked away, knowing that by morning his life would change in a way he never expected. Because love, when taken for granted, doesn't disappear quietly. It settles its accounts. And sometimes it comes due with interest. Welcome to my YouTube channel Whisper Stories, where silence speaks. My name is Anna, and I am 59 years old. At 59, you don't expect to be told where you do and don't belong, especially not by the child you carried inside you for 9 months, the child whose first breath you counted with shaking hands. You think you've earned a permanent place at the table of their life. I was wrong. The sentence that changed everything was short, sharp, and spoken without hesitation. I didn't invite you to dinner. It wasn't yelled. It wasn't whispered. It was said casually, like you tell a stranger they're in the wrong seat. And in that moment, something inside me finally snapped. The dinner that was mine. It was a Friday evening when it happened. I remember because Fridays used to mean family. They meant warmth, shared food, laughter drifting through open doors. Even after my husband passed away 6 years ago, I tried to keep Fridays sacred. Sometimes my son Daniel came over. Sometimes I went to his place. Sometimes we just talked on the phone. That Friday I had spent the afternoon cooking. Old habits die hard. I made his favorite chicken curry, the one he loved as a boy. I packed it carefully, wrapped it in foil, and told myself I wouldn't stay long, just a quick visit. Daniel lived 15 minutes away. As I drove, I noticed lights glowing warmly through his windows. Cars were parked outside. Laughter spilled onto the street. I smiled. Good, I thought, he's happy. I picked up the container and walked to the door. When Daniel opened it, his smile faded, not completely but enough for me to notice. Oh, he said, Mom. Just Mom, no hug, no step aside. I made food, I said softly, lifting the container like a peace offering. He glanced behind him. I saw his wife Lena arranging plates on a long table. His friends were already seated. Wine glasses clinked, music played. Then he looked back at me and said the words that would echo in my head for weeks. I didn't invite you to dinner. I stood there frozen. I thought it's Friday, I managed. I didn't know you had guests. Well, we do, he replied, his voice impatient now, and it's kind of awkward. Awkward. Like I was an inconvenience. Like I was a stranger who had wandered in uninvited. Lena didn't come to the door, she didn't say hello, she didn't meet my eyes. Daniel shifted his weight, clearly waiting for me to leave. So I did. I handed him the food, forced a smile and said, I won't keep you. He took the container without looking at me. And the door closed. The silent drive home. I don't remember much about the drive back. I remember the streetlights blurring. I remember gripping the steering wheel too tightly. I remember my chest feeling heavy, like something precious had cracked. At home, I placed my purse on the table and sat down in the quiet. The house felt bigger than usual, colder. That night I cried, not loudly, not dramatically, but the kind of crying that seeps into your bones, the kind that comes when you realize something fundamental has changed. It wasn't just the dinner. It was the pattern. The things I never spoke about. I had helped Daniel buy that house. Not with advice. Not with encouragement. With money. Every month without fail I sent him a check, half of his mortgage payment. I had started after his wedding when expenses piled up and he struggled. I told myself it was temporary. Months turned into years. I cut corners for myself. I postponed trips. I wore old clothes. I dipped into savings I had planned to use for my retirement. I never mentioned it. I never reminded him. I thought love didn't need receipts. But standing in that silent house, I realized something painful. Support without respect becomes entitlement. The morning after. The next morning I woke up with swollen eyes and a calm I didn't expect. I made tea and sat at the kitchen table, staring at the envelope on the counter, the one addressed to Daniel. Inside was the monthly mortgage check. My hand hovered over it. I thought of every time I had swallowed my feelings, every time I had excused his distance, every time I had told myself he's busy, he has a life. I thought of the door closing in my face. And for the first time in 59 years I chose myself. I tore the check in half, then into quarters, then into pieces small enough that they couldn't be taped back together. I didn't feel angry. I felt free. The call. 3 days later my phone rang. "Mom," Daniel said, his voice tight. "The bank called, they didn't get your payment." "I know," I replied calmly. There was a pause. "So, what's going on?" I took a breath. "I've decided I won't be paying your mortgage anymore." "What?" His voice rose. "You can't just do that." "I can," I said, "and I did." Silence. "Then this is because of that dinner, isn't it?" I didn't answer right away. Finally, I said, "It's because I realized I'm only welcome in your life when I'm useful." "That's not fair," he snapped. "No," I said softly. "What's not fair is being treated like a burden by the person I've sacrificed for." He hung up. The fallout. Weeks passed without a word from him. Friends told me I was harsh. Some family members said, "He's still your son." Others said I should apologize to keep the peace. But peace that requires silence from one side isn't peace, it's surrender. One afternoon there was a knock on my door. Daniel stood there looking tired, older. "Can we talk?" he asked. I stepped aside. The conversation that changed us. He didn't sit right away. He paced the living room like he used to as a teenager. "I didn't mean to hurt you," he said finally. "I believe you," I replied, "but you did." He sighed. "Lena thinks you don't respect our boundaries." I looked at him. "And do you think I deserve to be shut out without explanation?" He didn't answer. I continued, "I don't need to be invited to every dinner. I need to be treated like I matter." His shoulders slumped. "I got used to you always being there," he admitted. "Always helping. I guess I stopped noticing." I nodded. "That's what scared me. The turning point." "I can't pay the mortgage alone," he said quietly. I met his eyes. "Then we need to redefine our relationship, not as a bank and borrower, but as mother and son." He swallowed. "What does that look like?" "It looks like respect," I said. "Honesty, invitations given with kindness or declined with care." He nodded slowly. "I'm sorry," he said. I didn't rush to forgive him. Forgiveness given too easily teaches nothing. But I did say this. "I love you," that never changed, but love doesn't mean self-erasure. Where we are now. I didn't resume the payments. Daniel and Lena adjusted their lifestyle. They downsized expenses, they learned. And something surprising happened. When I was no longer a financial crutch, I became visible again. Now when I'm invited to dinner, it's intentional. When I'm not, it's explained kindly. We talk more honestly, we listen. I learned that sometimes love needs boundaries to survive. The moral of my story. If there's one thing I want you to remember, it's this. Being a parent does not mean being invisible. Helping someone does not mean tolerating disrespect. And setting boundaries is not cruelty, it's self-respect. At 59 years old, I learned a lesson I wish I'd learned sooner. You can love deeply without allowing yourself to be diminished. And sometimes, the most powerful act of love is knowing when to stop paying the price for someone else's comfort, so they can finally learn the value of your presence. That was the day I didn't just cancel a mortgage check. I reclaimed my place at the table.